Hey, Margie here. Are you taking care of a parent, relative, friend? Being a caregiver can be extremely stressful. So many people in our community have been telling me about this recently. The good news is there are tools that can help you. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the podcast. Our special guest is Mary-Elaine Petrucci. And Mary-Elaine is a speech and language pathologist who has been working for over 20 years with children and adults. And as part of the sandwich generation, she assisted her parents in choosing qualified home health care services that match their needs, as well as finding a quality adult daycare program and providing financial support to meet their social and emotional needs. But during this process, she realized that there are huge groups of people who are seeking guidance around their parents' healthcare and wellness as they retire. And Mary Elaine decided to assist these family caregivers just as she did her own parents. So now she's the host of the health and wellness podcast, Caregiver Cast. She's also launching a caregiver conference and has an ongoing Facebook group full of resources, expert information, and interviews for caregivers. In today's episode, we discuss tools and strategies caregivers can use to be prepared, reduce stress, and help those they love. So stay tuned. Mary Elaine, I'm really excited to have you here because this is a topic that so many people are dealing with. And it's just something that can be so stressful. People don't know where to turn. They don't know what's available. And it can be such a burden, and it doesn't have to be. So I'm really excited about the work you do and just to share what's possible for people. So thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you, Margie, for inviting me to be here. I'm excited about the topic of caregiving and would like to share some information with your audience.
So I always like to hear the backstory, how people got to do what they're doing. So what was your journey as a caregiver and why you're so passionate about this topic?
Great question. I'm going to step back a little bit in terms of that. I have a very unique legacy of activism in the labor movement in the coal fields in Southern Colorado. And that really led me to pursue a career in healthcare as a speech language pathologist. So my mission has been to give children and adults a voice to communicate their wants and needs. Also, I've been part of that sandwich generation, and I assisted my parents in choosing quality home healthcare services that match their needs and providing financial support to meet their social and emotional needs. And during my process as a caregiver, I began to realize that there's large groups of people seeking guidance around how they should help their parents in terms of health and wellness, because there's so many people retiring on a daily basis. So I decided that I wanted to assist caregivers just as much as what I had done, and wished that I had that support when I was going through my caregiving experience. So that is my backstory, and I feel really passionate to provide caregivers with like the tools, the strategies, and the resources to really make their caregiving journey a better, more rewarding experience.
Well, that's just great because so often it's just the opposite. And what do you see when people are not prepared? Like, what results have you been seeing? What are some of the problems?
Great question. I see that when caregivers aren't prepared, aren't organized, and that they're really stressed out, they're really overwhelmed, and their relationships with their family, their spouse, the person that they're caring for, and their work situations are really hampered by that, because there's just so much going on that they're not prepared for.
So let's turn to solutions because it is a problem, and I know. So I mean, unfortunately now, my parents, my in-laws, everyone is gone, but definitely have been in this situation, and it's so hard because it's not that it's easy to figure out all the information on your own, and you can get it just can be a huge stress, something that we're all trying to avoid, and so negative for our health. Here we're trying to help other people stay
Mhm.
healthy and stay well, but yet in the process we are really putting our health at risk because of all the stress. So why don't you share, you have 3 strategies that you can recommend for caregivers to really be prepared and to do the best job they can.
I'll be more than happy to do that. Let me just share some statistics with you
Sure.
first. Um, it's really daunting to me to think that 30% of caregivers will pass away before the person that they're caring for. That is amazing. I know. About 49% of them are caring for someone 5 years or longer. And it's really taking an emotional and financial toll on caregivers. Um, the thing is, most caregivers, I think, become a caregiver in an emergency situation. So my 3 strategies are, number one is to be really organized. So before anything happens is just to work with like their parent or their loved one, make sure that they have a lot of systems in place, I guess I will call them, to help them to be more present with the person that they're caring for. So, and being organized and doing that on a consistent basis. Caregivers can use their time and energy more effectively and efficiently. It will decrease the overwhelm of creating and maintaining order. First thing and foremost is that, you should keep a routine as much as possible. Make a routine for yourself, for the person that you're caring for. And that way, you can be better prepared for things that come up unexpectedly. So another thing is to really kind of create a system for medication management. So for example, have a pill box available with pills for certain days or for certain times. Organize with your pharmacy to make sure that all the medications are coming at one time so that you're not spending a lot of time going back and forth to the pharmacy looking for the medications that you may need.
Can
And
I ask you a question with that? So what
sure.
do? You call the pharmacy and you just get, one time for all medication? Is that what you're saying?
Thank you for asking that. No, just make sure that all of the medications are refilled at the same time at the pharmacy. They can also the pharmacy can provide you with medications you need before you get into having everything refilled at the same time.
Oh, God. It's so, because, right, a lot of times you'll get a medication and it's not in the schedule with your other medications. So you
Right.
just make it a point to talk to the pharmacy. Let's get this on a schedule so that monthly I can come in and, so they can organize. Is that what you're saying? They can
Yes.
organize it so they give you just the amount of pills that the next refill, everything will be all together. So it's much easier. That's a great point.
Yes, definitely. 'Cause I think it's really hard. I know with my parents, especially my mother, medications were being filled at different times, and it was always a pressure to get to the pharmacy so that she would have the medications available to her. Another thing is to really help find some devices that really make activities of daily living, like dressing, bathing, walking. So things like for my mother, I mean, she had some apraxia. So it was easier for her to hold like an implement, like a spoon, a fork, or a knife with a wider handle so that it was easier for her to be able to eat independently. or you can look at those two-handed mugs that help people so they don't spill liquid all over. So things like that are really helpful.
Wait,
The
before
other-
we go on, can we just talk about that for a second? Because a lot of people, I think that's such a great point. Many people have no idea that there's amazing devices that exist that, just like you said, so something doesn't spill. So here someone's, being embarrassed because they're spilling and there's a device to prevent that. Do you recommend? I know occupational therapists have, even through the visiting nurse, oftentimes they can get a consult with an occupational therapist who's really the expert in all of these devices and really figure out how to work in their kitchen or their house. What are your recommendations with that?
Well, that's a great point, Margie. I think you're right. You can ask your physician for an occupational therapy consult and treatment if at all possible. And then, like you say, come and watch the person when they're eating, look at what different tools like the thicker handled implements for like the spoon, the fork and the knife, or the two-handed mug, anything to make your life and their life much better, because you're spending quality time with the person you're caring for and not always being so concerned about cleaning up something.
Yeah, that's so great. The other thing I love is the what I'm trying, that you can pick things up from the floor so that they don't
Yes.
bend over and risk their balls. There's just so many different things that if you can, and a lot of times that's covered by insurance, to just get the consult. And I think the most important thing is letting people know that these things are available. And because it's not often the doctor will say, maybe you should get an occupational therapy consult. But if you ask, could we get a consult, and then really figure out what would be best for your, the person you're getting that needs this. Yeah. Okay. Continue. I just wanted to say that
No,
because oftentimes we don't realize that these services are available. We just need to ask for them.
definitely. Thank you for that. And as a speech therapist and you as a physical therapist, it just makes us more aware of what's available. But however, you make a great point in terms of making sure that you do get a doctor's order for an occupational therapy consult, because it will help you in your caregiving with the person that you're caring for. The other thing is to be really prepared for emergencies. So, make sure during the winter your driveways are shoveled, and you have some warm clothing for the person that you're caring for. Just be so prepared in case an emergency happens. Another thing to help you be organized is write down every day in a journal what the person being cared for is doing during daily activities. So, for example, is there a change in their behavior? Is there a change in the way that they're responding? Are they responding differently to social or environmental situations that are occurring? All of these could, be so critical when you do have a doctor's visit or have to go to the emergency room, because you have documentation of how the person's behavior has changed over time. So you can document that, and that will definitely help the people in the medical in the ER, or even for a doctor's visit, come to some conclusion as to what's causing that change in behavior. Another thing is to really, for the caregiver, to keep a journal themselves. So just write down give yourself a break, first of all, and just write down, how your day is going, how you could possibly change what's happening in the situation that's going on around you, to make it more beneficial for you and the person that you're caring for. And also just write down how grateful, some things that you're grateful for, and just shift your mindset for a little while in order to get back and help that person that you're caring for. The second thing is really to be planning, to do a lot of planning. And what that really means is like, get the, all documentation that you need available in one place. So get all your medical power of attorney, your durable power of attorney, your will, your healthcare proxy, advanced directives, all in one place, so that if there is an emergency, you can go to the doctor or the ER and you have all that information available to you at hand. So the doctors know who to call if there needs to be certain changes in the medical treatment of the person that you're caring for. So all of these documents are really, really critical. Knowing information, all the information that you can about the person that you're caring for, like all the friends, the family members that will be, involved in that person's care. All that information should really be located in one place. And I think that kind of planning ahead of time, especially if at some point will be a caregiver, in the sense that the person has a medical condition already that will, like Alzheimer's, that that they're going to need some help in the future. You want to get all those documents ready and prepared. So I think that is really critical, is to make sure that you're organized, you plan for any emergency, and you have like all the documentation that you need.
Wait, can I just ask you a question about that? So people who are listening who have older parents, and maybe they're managing right now, but who knows what's going to happen, a couple of years from now. So do you think it's a good idea? Because a lot of people don't even know what documents they need signed, or what, while that person is still active and, can help you with it. Are there things that you can do now so that you avoid some of the problems later on in terms of decision making, if maybe the person isn't able to help with those decisions? Or is there things now that people can do if they have older parents to prevent some of these problems later on?
Great question. Yes, I think this is the time that you can start having those conversations with your parents, in terms of asking them about like if they have like all their legal paperwork done. So again, if they have like a medical power of attorney, do they have a backup for the medical power of attorney? Do they have a durable power of attorney, healthcare proxy, a will, advanced directives? And they also have something new now, that you can have your physician write you an order about what you want for your final care. So you can put down specifically that you don't want to be intubated, you don't want to have a G tube to help you eat, stay alive. So you can put down specific instructions about, and that helps like the people that will be caring for you know what your wishes are, and the caregiver doesn't have to guess.
Oh, that's so important, because how stressful. And I know people in these situations where you're keeping someone alive and you're thinking, I don't know what that person wants, but you don't want to be the one to make this awful decision. It can be so stressful. So I think that's such a great idea beforehand. Have these decisions. Is there a place that this paperwork is for people, that they can go and find all these documents?
Great question. I would see like either an elder law attorney or an estate planning attorney. They can help you prepare like all the documentation that you will need. I know people do it with pre-prepared wills or paperwork that they need. My feeling is that I would feel more secure if I had an elder law attorney, or an estate planner helping me sit down and really focus about what I want and who I want involved in my care, or who to take, who will be able to make financial decisions as well as medical decisions. So you want to have like those discussions. I know they're hard, and I know that you can, it'll take some time and it'll take several conversations, and that's okay. For me, for example, my parents had their medical information available, and that what their wishes were in terms of advanced directives. However, I wasn't prepared. For example, my mother had Alzheimer's, and my father was in denial that she had that disease. So I wanted mom to come home. She fell, and I said, I want mom home. However, let's put her in a memory care unit until we can decide how we can bring her home safely. And my father was kept threatening to take mom out of the memory care unit. And I found myself having to go to court 2 days after Christmas to seek guardianship of my mother. So that was really hard. I wasn't prepared for that. However, I had to hire an attorney to help me with the guardianship process. And it wasn't until like the end of April when both my parents had to undergo a very thorough neuropsychological evaluation. And once those were completed, our attorney, my father's attorney, and myself sat down and decided what would be the best course of action. So we were able to bring mom home with 24/7 care. And I think at that point, my father realized that mom needed more help than he was able to provide. But that's just an example. I mean, even though they had the medical and legal paperwork available, I wasn't prepared to go to court. All of those basic documents in place will be very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's huge. Wow.
Exactly. And, just with all those documents, like I had mentioned, put them in a binder, put them in a folder. You can make copies of those legal and medical documents, but have them in one place with the caregiving journal that you're keeping, because all of that information will be very helpful if you go in for a medical visit or go to the emergency room, because you'll have all of that in one place so that the doctors and the family know exactly what to do based on that person's wishes. And I think that's really critical. I think I would want to make sure that I was honoring my parents' wishes, and I didn't want to have to second guess.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. That's so important. One thing about the journal that you were mentioning. So if there's a nurse, like a visiting nurse or someone who's coming, I know they have to write, but they write in their own journals. So is that also something they should make a comment so that when you do go to the doctor, if they have anything would you have those professionals also write notes in the journal too?
yes, in fact, the agency that was sending caregivers for my mother, they would have like a notebook, and they would have to check off certain activities that they did, activities of daily living. If she took a shower, if they helped her dress, if they helped her get ready to eat or something. They all had like a checklist, but they also wrote what happened during the day, so that if anything should happen, I would have that information available. And that every piece of information that you have is so critical when you're caring for someone. So it's always fantastic if you have it available when you need it, because it will make it easier for the medical professionals who will be working with your parent, know exactly what to do next. So I think it just kind of helps speed up the diagnosis, the treatment much quicker.
I agree with you because you can go to the doctor and, he seems like he's a little off, but you don't have any specifics. So it's very hard for them to figure out what exactly is going on. But if you're seeing, after he eats, he gets this terrible stomach ache, he's dizzy or whatever it is,
Right.
and they can start putting the pieces together and really figuring out what may be the issue here. So I think that's great to just be collecting this information while you're as you're being a caregiver and so that you have it. That's such a fabulous point.
Thank you. Well, it is because, the person may have started a new medication, and maybe it's making the person dizzy and making the person possibly fall. And you want to avoid those situations because you want to have that person that you're caring for have the best quality of life, even though that they have like Alzheimer's, so they're going to change over time. You just want to try to be one step ahead, if at all possible.
That's so great. And so did I interrupt you? Did you finish your all your strategies?
Yes, I did. Well, no, the last one is really to find support. And that's really critical. I know with a lot of caregivers, they feel alone, they feel burnt out because all this information is coming at them, at a unending pace. And so I really recommend that caregivers take a break. So even if it's 5 minutes, to go into the other room, take deep breaths that they can do pretty quickly, write in a journal for like 5 minutes, set a timer, and then go back and be able to be more focused, more present with the person that you're caring for, because that's the most important thing. So really ask for support. So ask a family member, ask a neighbor, ask a friend. And if they do, those, your friends, family, neighbors, ask if they can do something, tell them yes, and give them exactly what it is that you need at that particular point, because that having that much support really lessens the stress level and the anxiety and the overwhelm. So yes, seeking support is a major thing. And that's one area of focus that I will be providing caregivers in the future, is just a community where they can have the resources that they need, and also to get advice from other people who are caregivers.
Wow. Well, there's two things. I want to really talk about your summit and this amazing thing you've put together. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I just wanted to say one thing. Self-care is critical. It's critical. It's the most unselfish thing you can do, because by taking care of yourself, just like you said, you're showing up better for everybody, for everybody. And I know my mother passed away a while ago from ovarian cancer, and I would have to do my exercise and take care of myself. If I didn't, I wasn't good for anybody. It was so important, that piece of it. And even whatever time it took, so that I was in a good state and my vibes were good and I was positive and having energy. And I see this with people all the time. They're so busy, just like you said. And even taking that 5 minutes, doing a breathing practice, doing journaling, whatever it is essential. So just make sure you put that into your day. So let's go what you've created, because this is just so amazing. And that's another reason why I wanted to have you here to share what's available to people, because you've done an amazing thing with your conference. So tell us about it and what services are offered.
Thank you for bringing up the Caregiver Conference. I'm really excited about it. I have 45 speakers who will be speaking on different topics and giving caregivers a lot of information that they can utilize right now, or before you become a caregiver, or during the person's caregiving experience or journey. So speakers on nutrition, things. You were a great speaker on osteoporosis and falling, which is a big issue with the elderly. Legal information, financial information, nutrition, exercise, stress, fatigue, what you can do with a person that has diabetes or Alzheimer's. So it's a very comprehensive conference where all the speakers bring their expertise and knowledge in certain specific areas that I felt like caregivers needed to have the information for.
Oh, I love this because it's in one place and
Mhm.
it's free to listen to. So you can figure out, what areas do you need the financial? Do you need to know about the nutrition, or what can you do as a caregiver to prevent falls? There's just, it's really wonderful. And it's just so, I know how much time you've put in and the speakers you've selected to really have a comprehensive conference that offers people all of this information. And it's just, so what are the dates of it's coming up pretty soon. What are the dates?
The virtual caregiving conference is from December 2nd through the 5th.
Great. And I'll have all the links for this
Yes.
in the show notes that everybody can register for. And it's very exciting because what have you found when people do have a supportive community?
I feel like they are being seen, that they're being heard, that they can recognize that they're not the only one having maybe a particular concern or issue with the person that they're caring for. Somebody else does. I can provide experts such as in the conference. However, they really need to have community. So that's my next step from the conference, is to offer a caregiver lifeline community so that caregivers have a place to get as much information as they can, have a community where they can find out more information about specific topics from from experts. And then to be able to really communicate back and forth with one another and have a dialogue, not only with me, but with the expert speakers and with each other, because I think that's what they really need. And like you said, taking 5 minutes is a great thing to do because it just re-energizes you and helps redirect your focus back to being present so you can help the person you're caring for.
I just love the whole thing because to know you're not alone and to have support and to, other people who've gone through this to sort of, figure things out together. It just helps you navigate it and makes this pleasant versus it can be so overwhelming and devastating and really be tearing people apart. And we don't want that. We don't want that. And I just give you all the credit in the world for putting this together and finding speakers and, and offering the service afterwards too. That's fantastic. So yeah, this is just, I'm so excited about it. I'm so happy I was able to be a part of it as well. And this is just great. Is there anything else that you want to share before we end?
Thank you very much for having me here. Like we are just saying, self-care is really important. And because that will help with your organization and planning and finding support. That's those 3 areas that you really need the most help in. Reach out. I mean, there could be a senior center in your area. There could be an Alzheimer's Association chapter somewhere in the state, and they could provide great resources for you. So call, the state government and find out what senior organizations exist. So people from like the Gerontological Society, just any governmental service that you can find to help you with your caregiving journey is what you really want to do to help you and the person you're caring for.
That's another good point because I know in New Jersey, there's amazing. I'm very involved at the state level, and there's so many wonderful things that a lot of people don't know about it. And you may have a parent in another state. You may live in New York. Your parent lives in New Jersey. You don't even know all these amazing services that are available. So I think that's great to just, to check it out, as you mentioned. But
Yes, but
yeah, well,
thank you again for having me today. I've really appreciate the opportunity. And please have your listeners reach out to me if there's any way I could help them. I'm more
is
than
there
willing.
any other way? So I'm going to have the information on the conference. Is there um, any other way they could reach out to you? Any other thing you want to?
They can reach me by email, and that's Petrucci, Petrucci 2002 @gmail.com.
Oh, great. So I'll have that in the show notes as well as your website too.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much,
Uh,
Margie, for this opportunity.
well, thank you so much. And I'm really excited about the summit. And I know it's going to change a lot of lives. So if you're listening, and that's why I had you on, because I know this is a problem. So many people in my community are really struggling with this. And
Mm.
there's tools and there's help. And so definitely take advantage so that you don't have to have all this stress, and you can really, check that, really, again, reduce the stress so that you can continue to live your happy, enriched life. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Margie.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Mary-Elaine, and now some new tools and strategies you can use if you are a caregiver, or there are things you can do to prevent problems down the road. I'm really excited about the conference, the Caregiver Conference that Mary-Elaine is hosting. And I was one of the speakers. I talked about osteoporosis and what we could do to prevent falls and fractures. Oh, yeah, not gonna talk about that. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Mary-Elaine, and now have some new tools and strategies that you can use if you are a caregiver, or ideas and things you can put in place to avoid problems in the future. I'm really excited about the conference, the Caregiver Conference that Mary-Elaine is hosting. And all you need to do to register is go to tiny, TINY, URL.com/happy caregiver. And I will have all the links as well as information on Mary-Elaine in the show notes. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.